Well, joining me from Paris is Sudhir Hazareesingh, who teaches politics at the University of Oxford and is a specialist in modern French history and politics. It's good to see you. Thanks for being with us. First of all, the announcement that he made just then, that he's probably going to lift the state of emergency in the autumn, and he put it in the context of restoring the freedom of the French people and so on. How well do you think that's going to go down? Is there a sense that the terror threat has been abated for a while?
Not really. There's still a lot of anxiety about the possibility of further attacks. But as far as this specific proposal is concerned, the devil is in the detail, because although the state of emergency will be lifted, a lot of the measures that are in the state of emergency are going to be transferred into general public law. And quite a few people are worried that some of these measures, like, for example, surveillance or restrictions on freedom of expression, might become permanent as a consequence.
All right, okay. So a state of emergency, but without calling it a state of emergency?
In some respects, exactly. That's the concern.
All right, okay. What about his sort of ambitious agenda for the country now? He won handsomely in the presidential election. He has a huge majority in the Assembly, in the National Assembly. What do you make of what he was saying today in terms of how he's going to take the country forward?
Well, I think he set out a very broad roadmap in terms of his economic reforms, in terms of changing the number of MPs. He's going to reduce the size of the National Assembly by 1/3. And there was something rather cruel about gathering all the parliamentarians and then telling them that 1/3 of them are going to face redundancy in 5 years' time. And finally, he talked also about social reform, because he's very acutely aware that a lot of French people are suffering at the moment, high rate of unemployment, the economy not performing very well. So there's also a kind of Republican reformist side to his agenda as well. So he laid out all those different aspects, I think, very clearly. And you know, the coast is clear as far as politics is concerned, because the opposition is very fragmented, and his party has an absolute majority in the National Assembly.
Right. Do you think then he actually has an opportunity the way that previous presidents simply have not, even though they've all said as they've taken office in the Elysee Palace that they're going to liberalize workplace laws, they're going to make it more easier for bosses to hire and fire so that they can employ more people, that he's going to sort of get rid of the 36-hour week or whatever it is, that he's going to open up the French employment practices. Do you think he has a real chance of getting those policies through in a way that Sarkozy didn't, Chirac didn't, all the ones in the last, frankly, 10, 15 years? They've all failed.
Well, that's why he's going to vote these laws in by decree. And the advantage of doing that is that you can get it through in a matter of months rather than in a matter of years. And the major lesson that Macron has learned from all his predecessors is that if you allow a proposal like this, which is quite controversial, to go through the normal legislative process, it's very likely to become paralyzed. Whereas if you push it through by decree, the text can be probably voted and enacted by late September, early October. So it will hit the statute book. Whether it then has the desired effects in terms of actually decreasing the level of unemployment, increasing productivity, that remains to be seen.
All right. And what about making all these announcements in Versailles? That was all a bit flash, wasn't it?
Well, Macron is a very symbol-conscious president. We saw it with a spectacular ceremony at the Louvre on the 7th of May. We saw it with his official portrait, which was very carefully calibrated. And Versailles is part of the French monarchical tradition. And Macron is someone who is very consciously trying to be, at least in part, a monarchical president. But with Macron, there's always the flip side of the coin. So even though he was speaking in Versailles, his conscious model as well was the American State of the Union speech. Right. So the idea is to introduce a pretty regular system of updating Parliament. And one of the things he said in this speech is that he intends to communicate to Parliament every year. So his symbolism is a mixture, a mélange of tradition and modernity.
A mélange indeed. Very interesting. All right, Sudhir Hazareesingh, it's good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.